So this picture, it's got a lot of information, right? And you've all been reading it over. Turns out bees are responsible for a lot. But that's not what I'm going to talk to you all about today. Bees are in danger. With a widely decreasing population, they are nearing extinction. Bees are known to produce not just honey, but also waxes and other byproducts that enrich our livelihood. They also pollinate flowers and by doing so help with crop growth. For example, they help with the growth of blueberries and avocados. In Samantha Fish's article, Bee the Change, Why Saving Bees is More Important Than We Think, she states that according to the United States Department of Agriculture, or the USDA, 1 in every 3 bites of food we take is directly or indirectly affected by honeybee pollination. So, we can all acknowledge that we've had at least more than 3 bites for a meal. Am I right? So therefore, we've all been eating a product of help from a bee. It's such a small world, right? So if we were to lose the bees, we lose these things, right? Possibly. But what's the cause of the loss of population? According to Jonathan Lundgren of the U.S. Department of Agriculture in his article, The State of Bees in the U.S. from Mother Earth News issue 297 of January 2020, varroa mites, which eat fatty tissues in bees, a lack of diversity with flowers, viruses with other diseases, and sometimes pesticides are the main contributors. So understand that bees are very important for many agricultural and commercial reasons. But in order to remain hopeful for the future of these products, our livelihoods, and the bees, we must first look into the causes stated by Lundgren and others in order to understand how to combat this decline in population. Not all hope is lost, as bees can be saved despite these causes. So along with Lundgren's article, there is more evidence to support this claim that bees are in severe danger. In a growing pandemic, a review of Nosema parasites in a globally distributed domesticated native bees from PLOS pathogens published on June 18, 2020, Arthur C. Group of the Second and Alicia Quant discuss how the Nosema parasite is a threat to the populations by stating, it then injects its contents into the host cell where it consumes the cell contents via phagocytosis until it eventually lays down spore walls before rupturing the host cell to release the spores. So with bees pollinating, the spread of this disease, this deadly parasite, is imminent and quickly, as they are also in close proximity, and if it releases the spores and they're in close proximity, it's not just going to infect the flowers they pollinate, but also each other. And on top of the threats of the varroa mites who wither the bees by eating fatty tissues, which causes the bees then to die, this Nosema parasite is just one example of how bees are being threatened. Now, Lundgren also refers to a lack of diversity of flowers as another contributing factor. Now, according to Dave Goulson and al.'s journal, Bee Decline Driven by Combined Stress from Parasites, Pesticides, and a Lack of Flowers from Science, published on March 27, 2015, the clear consensus is that loss of habitat has been a long-term contributor to declines. Bees require appropriate floral resources during the adult flight season, which may be short for some solitary species or year-long for social species in tropical environments. They also require undisturbed nest sites with different species occupying diverse locations. So bees are losing their habitats to urbanization, so their ability to pollinate and produce a home are being lost. They don't have the flowers, they don't have the diversity, the flowers can't grow, the bees can't pollinate and take that pollen back to the hive, eat it for honey, so they're losing source nutrients, we're losing the ability to have more flowers. So on top of this issue, we have to worry about pesticides now, many of which have an ingredient called neonics, which are harmful to many predatory insects, but they're also harmful to bees. Lundgren elaborates on this in his article mentioned previously, stating that these insecticides didn't control key pests, meaning they were putting these chemicals into the environment for no reason at all. Instead, neonics were reducing predators in soybeans that might eat pests, such as soybean aphids, and, at least in sunflowers, they were reducing pollinators too. So they're not just affecting the predatory insects, but they're also affecting the bees, the pollinators. And we need these pollinators to be out there pollinating flowers and getting our flowers to grow. So the one thing that Lundgren does not mention, which I did discover, was that climate change is also a contributing factor, and is this last factor. So Peter Soroya and all mentioned in this article, climate change contributes to widespread declines among bumblebees across continents, from Volume 367 of Science from February 2020, stating that declines among bumblebee species relate to the frequency and extent to which climatic conditions approach or exceed species historically observed climatic limits, particularly for temperature. So therefore, if bees are exposed to a set temperature, and they have been for a very long time with minor fluctuations. Now we're getting major fluctuations with climate change. It is going to make these environments less hospitable and will upset their natural balance, which in the end process would kill more bees. So there's a lot that I have brought light upon, but now it comes to the time where we can start to think through these processes and ask ourselves, what can we do to help? So for starters, we can use alternative chemicals to help with plants, ones that don't have neonics, chemicals that are good for flowers, bad for intrusive species that want to eat the flowers but aren't going to kill bees. Writing letters to Congress about climate change, writing to farmers about climate change, and how we can take scientific measures to help combat climate change and therefore make these climates more hospitable for bumblebees. That's another thing we can do. We can also use treatments that help boost the bees' resistances to parasites and get more information on the parasites. These can be great assets too. Not a lot of research has been done on these parasites, but over time, as more bee populations are brought under scientific control and they're studied, more variables can be recorded about how we can help these bees with these parasites. So now that we know that bees are in danger from parasites, climate change, chemicals, and loss of flower diversity, I feel like I just need to remind you that it is not the end, though. There's hope. As I stated before, we can write, we can change our agricultural process, or even tell a friend. It might sound rather bleak, but there are many ways to help with bees. Together, the world can help bees, since they've been helping us all for so long. And bees are in danger, it's a fact, but it's not the end. So thank you all for listening.